Hey guys, welcome to Creatacast with your host David Welch. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the video once it's done. That way you can, support the channel. Now, if you watch some of my other videos, I oscillate between like the creative aspect world and my own brand of politics. For those who are like really into creative writing, I would just urge you to click on anything that's like Creatacast. Anything that says David's Life and Observation, do that at your own risk. You may not like my political stance. It's okay. You may not even like my creative writing content. That's fine. But I do delve into two worlds. I don't limit myself to one particular avenue of commentary. And the reason that is because people are so much more than the lane that they're currently in. And here's what I mean. We have so many people who are pigeonholing themselves into a box. And I saw this last night on Twitter when I was on Twitter looking at a young lady kind of verbalizing that she may not cut it for writing, or may not cut it as an author. And I'm like, hogwash, I read some of her stuff. It's pretty good. Not saying that I would buy every book, because I don't know, because I read a particular brand of novel. I love historical fiction, I love science fiction, I love people that have a really established cadence to their writing. So it really depends for me. There's no specific author that I would say, is the end-all be-all for me. I do really enjoy Orson Scott Card, Simon Scarrow, Connor Golden. All of them have a particular cadence. Alexander Kent. Obviously these people have a cadence that I really enjoy reading, and it's their tags work for me, their paragraph structure. William Dietrich is one of those. Love his work. So it really depends. It really, you really have to strike my fancy and have a very consistent way you speak in your book. Anyways, going back to this young lady, I was like, why do you limit yourself to just being a novelist? Writers are so much more than just novelists, because the avenue of writing is so broad. There's so much capability that people have if you can articulate yourself well. And here's what I mean. We have a lot of times an idea of who we are as a writer, which is okay. You can have that idea all day, and it may not be your main hustle right now, but it can be. Writing, especially with freelancers, I think a lot of people take a turn right after college because their ideal as a writer isn't met. Their ideal is, I'm going to write my one book, I'm going to get picked up by a major publisher, and that's going to be my life. Well, that is not necessarily true for, I would say, 99.9% of writers. Most writers get into different avenues of the business: journalism, podcasts, writing treatments for film, and writing just different aspects of writing. If you do not broaden your horizons as a writer, if you don't delve into different types of writing, even underwriting, copywriting, any sort of, or ghostwriting, if you don't stay in the craft, you don't work on different formats, you don't work on different types of writing, you're never going to build as a writer. You're never going to develop your cadence, and you're never going to develop a sense of style. Just like we like some directors. We have directors that have a particular brand of film. We have Quentin Tarantino. We have Michael Bay. We have, a slew of great talent when it comes to film. We have a slew of great talent when it comes to composers. We can definitely understand a John Williams versus, Horner or any other, or Danny Elfman. We just have different brands of music style. We have our Tim Burton, Danny Elfman combo. We have our Steven Spielberg, John Williams. We have our or George Lucas. Either way, we have a brand of creativity that meshes well, and that's okay. We have, we just have those, matches made in heaven, so to speak, that really speak to their particular brand of sound and film style and everything like that, that really puts it together. We have Survivor and Stallone. I mean, Survivor put out bangers for him, and, it proved to respond well to the type of film that he was making with Rocky 3 and, the introduction of Rocky 3. That's where we hear Eye of the Tiger. We get Burning Heart in, Rocky 4. So we do have this, great matches made in heaven, so to speak. So, and those aren't the only examples, but, if we didn't have people who took the time to really develop their cadence, we wouldn't have great story, anything like that. So to the young lady that I responded to, I said, what else are you doing in writing? What is it that you're not feeling the satisfaction over? And her response was like, I'm, trying to write these books. I'm trying to produce these novels. And she's on the path, guys. Like, she's almost there. I mean, I can see her getting picked up in a year or two. She bangs out 3 manuscripts, and they progressively get better. She finds her voice a little bit better, and wham, she's got a deal. You know what I mean? Because she produces. It's not that the stories aren't great. It's not that the content doesn't meet what people are wanting to read. It's just that she needs to find her consistency with her cadence, because she doesn't jump around, but she doesn't have it fine-tuned to where you can easily get in love with her brand of writing. Some people could read one book and be like, damn, that was great, or read the other book and be like, what did you do here? And that's with any writer. You can read a Steven Spielberg or Stephen King and not be in love with it. Like, I really wasn't in love with some of his books, and then I read the Dark Tower series, and I was like, fuck, I found you, great. Or Orson Scott Card. You loved Ender's Game, love Ender's Shadow, love certain books, but you get to, Children of the Mind, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, are we talking about the same author here? Because he gets more in depth, he gets more wordy, and I was like, damn, man, like, I don't know if he was just trying to meet contract requirements or whatever, but then you see him bounce back. Ender in Exile, Shadows in Flight, you're like, fuck yeah, he's back. So it's all about finding your cadence and finding, what you like with who you read. And I think a lot of people are so used to a particular brand of reader that they're not giving other authors a chance, especially self-published authors. A lot of people kind of look down their nose at self-published authors like, damn, you took the shortcut. Like, why are you trying to get out there when other people have worked so hard to get to where they're at to get picked up by a publisher? Well, the people who get picked up by a publisher, it's a fucking crapshoot. There are people who are self-published authors who've written great novels, who have submitted to major publishers at one time, didn't get picked up. And you're like, well, why is that? And it's all about who chose to read the manuscript, even if they read the manuscript at full length, or maybe an assistant read it. Who knows why they didn't get picked up? But then they hit it big on their own, and suddenly, you got publishers that are like Johnny Come Lately, like, well, I'll help you out, I'll pick you up. And it's like, the fuck were you 5 years ago when I submitted the same manuscript? That happens. So to the young lady I was explaining, like, there's journalism. Mark Twain was a journalist. It's where he got good at sensory details. He got good at harnessing the language of the time, where it was a very strong accented language. That's kind of why you like his introduction of slang and Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and Huckleberry Finn. You like those books because he did something at the time that other authors weren't doing, but he picked it up because he was on the go as a journalist. So delve into other components of writing. That is okay. Delve into things that'll really light your fire. Like, some people secretly want to write a film. Like, okay, do it. Take the challenge. Download Final Draft Pro or another screenwriting service and go after it. Like, why not? There's no reason why you can't just limit yourself. There's a author by the name of John Shirley who I love and adore. Fantastic human being. Love his work. He writes all sorts of shit. He wrote a book for Predator called Predator Forever Midnight. Love that book. He wrote a Constantine film, book version of the film. He wrote a lot of steampunk. So it's like, man, like, I really dig his writing. I've got a lot of his books. So, and he's also written for film. Just a fantastic writer. And because he chose a long time ago to not limit himself to just writing novels, or not writing, or just writing science fiction or steampunk or whatever it is. He chose to venture off into a multitude of areas and be cavalier in his pursuit of good writing. So it's all about what you choose to do with your writing. Some people are really meant for nonfiction. You got Laura Hillenbrand, who fictionalizes, nonfiction, and it sounds amazing. Her research is spot on. She purposely highlights great human beings and stories that need to be told, and she does it in a way that's very enjoyable to read. And she accompanies it with great, pictures and newsreels, and like what she did with Unbroken was fucking amazing. So if that may be your brand of writing, you don't know yet, give it a go. So that's what I say. Honestly, when it comes to me, my poetry is a lot better than my fiction. I don't want to write poetry, but if that's what gets picked up, that's what I'm going to work on as well. I'm not going to just, abandon poetry to focus on fiction. I'm going to write both. So, that's my message for this video. Also, please, for the love of God, go see Onward. Great film. Loved it. Pixar knocked this one out of the park. Heart-wrenching story, because you have a sense of what's going to happen, so to speak. You have an idea, but you don't really know until you get there, and you're like, damn, like, I really wanted to, have a certain type of resolution with the story and I think you do get in a way, but you don't get it in the way you think you're going to get it. That's what I love about it. When it comes to, and I've said this before, Pixar needed to go the way of Don Bluth. And Don Bluth was really good at mixing story types with huge elements of danger, and you saw that progressively with Toy Story. Toy Story is great because you have a real sense of danger, and Don Bluth was, huge in the sense that he produced films that were like, there's an element of danger, but there's like champions in what they do. So, you have An American Tail, you have Land Before Time, you have elements of his stuff with All Dogs Go to Heaven. Like, that was one of his, I would say, masterpieces. So in that arena of adapting your writing style, think about what you're trying to leave as a legacy. What is your brand? What does your cadence look like? What are you producing? So Onward has that. Onward has that very lovable adventure that you would expect in a Pixar film. But Pixar's so good at crafting stories that do touch the heart. Big time. So watch that film. I endorse it. I recommend it. I also recommend, what did I see? Call of the Wild was good. It's great seeing Harrison Ford in a role like that because it really, we just want to see more of him. We saw so much of him in the 90s, and I get that. But I mean, as a seasoned actor at his age, to work on a film, and it's hard working with CGI. Like I don't know like how some actors do it. Some do very well, and that's just a credit to their ability to do it. Like me, I'm not the biggest fan of CGI. Could they have had actual dogs? Probably. An actual bear? Depends. It really all depends on the kind of budget you're working with, and CGI is just much easier to do. But it's a good human story too. So it's a good human story. It's a good dog story. So really look at it. Really get into that film, Onward. What was another one I saw? I saw one with my wife that we were itching to go see. Oh, Sonic. Yeah. Sonic was actually really entertaining. I was a fan of Sonic when I was a kid. And that was that and Toe Jam and Earl were my first games on the Sega Genesis. I mean, obviously we progressed to, Mortal Kombat. We got into Battletoads. We got into Double Dragon. All these great titles with Sega. They have never gone after a film for Sonic. And I've always wondered why, but we had to wait for now. And the reason that is, and the wisdom of that was, I don't know if it would have been done right or done well or explained well. So whoever wrote the script for that and explained the purpose of the rings, thank you. Thank you for relating that to us. And then they pick it up. They do foreshadow for another film. So it's great. So I loved it. I loved the work in it. The voice actor, did very well. You have, of course, kind of, a lovable character. You even have a lovable villain because, you have this danger element that Jim Carrey brings. And it looks like, I mean, honestly, with every role he has, he can easily teeter-totter between sane and insane very well. So if it looks like he's, losing his mind on film, that's just a credit to his acting. I mean, he is, I think, getting more refined with age. As watching him when he was younger, he was very animated, very always trying to do something that really, provokes thought in the narrative. So like with Ace Ventura and his younger stuff, he was very like The Mask. That role was built for him. But so what I'm trying to say is, like, as he gets older, there's still the element of crazy, but he's actually, getting into more serious looking roles and more serious kind of tone to his acting instead of just being crazy. Because the element of crazy and funny was there. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, I think he is sharper at conveying real lunacy, real crazy, and real kind of rededication to the craft. So I'd love to see him come back and do the second film. Hopefully they've contracted him. So those are the 3 movies that I would definitely recommend seeing. Definitely get out there and see those and just look at how they are put together. So if you're a screenwriter or you're in film, or you're looking at a combination of things, look how those films are done and understand why they have the following and the audience base they do. There's nothing saying that you can't start your own animated film series. I mean, people try it all the time. If you have a really good story, and we see great stories play out in video games all the time. Sometimes the video game story is better than the fucking film. And you're like, why don't we just translate what actually happens in the game to the film? Be a great fucking story, but we don't get that sometimes. I mean, we didn't get that so much with like World of Warcraft the way we could have. We didn't get it with we didn't really get that with some of the screen adaptations to certain games. but you do get that with sometimes you don't even get that with book, like where you write the film adaptation of a book. You don't necessarily get the same that you got out of the book. Like Michael Crichton. So he's a good example of what I use to talk about this. I would love to see a book version of or a film version of Pirate Latitudes, and I would just love to see how that would be done, because I like that book. I'd love to see, and we saw so many films. Like we saw Timeline, we saw 12 Monkeys, we saw 12 Monkeys, one of the two. We saw Jurassic Park, and I would just love to see some of his more recent releases. Because he's been dead for quite a while. The more recent releases from the family, on the manuscripts that he's had parked in his filing cabinet. I would love to see those be a film, and maybe generate a scholarship or just, help out his family if they need help out. I don't know if they do. But that's just like I said, a testament of this guy had manuscript after manuscript parked in a filing cabinet that would have been bangers back in the day, but he had them kind of releasing progressively. And if you're a consummate writer, if you're somebody who is okay with producing 10, 20, 25,000 words a day, and there are people that do it, and you have manuscript after manuscript after manuscript parked on files and, on your computer or whatever have you, do get physical copies of those, because the digital copy can get messed up, and believe me, you don't want that nightmare. I've dealt with it. It sucks having your hard work kind of just vaporized, and you're like, man, I wrote so much and it's all gone. I had a flash stick, fucking be non-usable. You lost, or I lost it, or computer crash. Oh my god. One of my first computers crashed on me. Well, it didn't really crash, because a buddy of mine got tipsy, spilled some beer on it, so it just evaporated my damn computer. It sucked. But things like that happen, and you can lose work. Now, if you are the person that does lose work, and I'm going to stress this, and I can't stress this enough, it is okay. It is not the end of the world. That doesn't mean you should stop writing. All that means is save your shit in more places than one. Email yourself. You write a good short story at work, email yourself. You have synopsis on your phone or notes or whatever, email it to yourself. That way you can go back or put it in your Google Drive, or something that you can keep a record of. That doesn't mean you should just abandon ye all hope. No, fuck that. No, just keep it somewhere, and keep multiple copies somewhere. Sometimes, I lost a really, really awesome version of the fan fiction Predator novel I was working on. Devastated me. I fucking left that. I abandoned that project for well over 2 years. I was just like, man, I can't write on it anymore. Went back to it, and I was like, I can pick up the story right at this point, which is where I had it saved, and I shouldn't have lost so much traction and time with that, because I think I could have made it better, and I could have definitely, and I've found a better cadence as an older writer, so it's definitely something I've enjoyed working back into. And so just remember that just because you stopped a project currently as well, because there are a lot of people who have multiple projects going, doesn't mean you can't come back when the mindset and mood is right and make it something more refined or better, or finish, heaven forbid you finish something. That was me. I had so many projects going, I'm like, oh my god, I'll never finish these. And then I started knocking them down one by one. I got in that mode. I was, knocking out probably 20, 30,000 words a day on multiple stories, and they all finished relatively within the same time frame. So I was very happy with that. I was like, shit, yes, I've completed the story the way I want it. Get them off to the editor. Editor's like, chip, chop, chop, does what she does with them. And then, they're even better. They're even, some parts, need to get flushed out. Sometimes you need to, remember your character has a tick or something that they do, so you got to mention it more. But yeah, so here's what I'm saying. And this is kind of a recap of everything I talk about. First, find your cadence by delving into other avenues of writing. If you need to pay the bills with your writing in different avenues. Journalism. Podcasts is a form of creativity that you can work with. You can download Anchor and get right to it. Writing for screen, writing for radio, do something that helps pay the bills as a writer. That helps you because you already have very technical writing skills. You have the ability to string sentences together that make sense for everybody, even if it's academic writing. And I can't stress this enough. If you're very good at academic writing, why would you stop? Why would that stop being an avenue for you to pursue a career with? You can be very good at writing papers. You can be very good at research and really good at, if that's not all you want to do, great. I totally understand. But if that's what pays the bills, why would you stop doing it? Why? It doesn't make sense to me. Me with higher education, part of what I do now, and I've done it, and I still do MMA photography and videography. I love doing that. I write blogs. I've written, speeches. I've done quite a few things. But another thing that helps pay the bills is staying in the realm of higher education, whether I'm teaching English or whether, I'm working in admissions, I'm working somewhere within the academic community, and I'm still writing academic papers for conferences and things like that, because that only builds your CV and that only helps you. So so just keep writing, keep crunching. If you have a devastating loss of stuff, it happens, move forward. Go see Onward, go see Call of the Wild, and go see Sonic the Hedgehog. Thank you for tuning in to Creatacast. I love you. If you like this video, again, please like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you guys think.